Now, I was having a problem in Warframe, and this is how I fixed it. Now, that specific problem is Deep Archimedea. Now, what this is, every week you got a chance to run it, get yourself some Archon shards, some Phosphor, all kinds of goodies if you run the Elite Archimedea. Now, if you do this, you have to equip one of the frames that throws at you for that week, one of the primaries, secondaries, and melees that it throws at you. And then not only that, if you want the maximum rewards, you have to check on all of these debuffs down here to be able to get the maximum possible rewards. And the only problem I was having with this is, even though I've got a bunch of different weapons to choose from, not all of them are built up just like the Finmore. Like, I've got the Finmore built up, so it does pretty good, so we could use that if we wanted to. Maybe even the Blinks would be okay. Or even the Serrata, but this doesn't happen every week. So here's what I actually did. I went ahead and I built up a Warframe that's going to give us easy survivability and a buttload of damage. And that Warframe just happens to be Dante. Now, when we've got Dante all built up, looking all nice and pretty, doing all the damage and surviving as easily as we want him to, what we can do is we can equip the primary, secondary, melee, and all the debuffs and just leave off the actual Warframe up top here, unless Dante happens to be one of your picks for that week. But we'll get the maximum rewards all the way up until that extra 50 phosphor there at the end, which I don't really care about. All I want are these rewards that's going to give us possible Archon or Talforged Archon shards. Now, the other requirement that I actually wanted with Dante was I didn't want to Helminth over his first ability, his Noctua ability. He summons his book and you can shoot out these electric balls of energy and do pretty good damage with them. Now, for his abilities, like I said, I want to be able to keep the Noctua because I think the Noctua is pretty cool and we can see how much damage we can actually get out of it. Light Verse is going to give you health and overguard. Dark Verse is going to inflict slash on your enemies in front of you. And then Final Verse lets you combine your second and third abilities for more abilities. So we already know the basics of how Dante works, but what is the build that we're actually going to be using? Well, to start off, for a basic build, which would be something similar to this, because by the time you get to Dante, you should have your Umbral mods, hopefully, which that will give you a big boost in ability strength since Dante likes ability strength, a little bit of duration, and a little bit of range. Now up here in the aura mod slot, I put Dreamer's Bond because everybody by this point should have at least that, and that's going to give you a little bit of extra mod capacity up there. But if you have other actual aura mods, you can use something like Steel Charge to not really help you out with anything except for give you more capacity, or you could use something along the lines of like Corrosive Projection to maybe lower their armor a little bit to help you kill them a little bit faster. But this is what I would start out with, at least. Maybe a little bit of efficiency, range, some duration, and like I said, should have your Umbral mods by now. Get you some extra ability strength out of that, or you can use something like regular old Intensify, which will give you a 30% ability strength boost. Now for my Deep Archimedea build, we'll start out with what he's got for Archon shards, which you can see right here. 4 Talforged Crimson shards, which is going to give us an extra, 60% ability strength. And we've got a yellow for extra casting speed. Now for my Deep Archimedea build, what I'm doing is I'm using Growing Power up here in the aura slot. So if we can get a status effect from one of our weapons, we can actually increase our ability strength by 25% for 6 seconds. And then for our Exilus mod slot, we've got Power Drift, just for that extra 15% ability strength. And if you've got Overguard, you don't have to worry about knockdown because that's going to prevent the knockdown. Now down here at the bottom, we got Umbral Intensify for 44% increase to ability strength, Transient Fortitude for 55% more ability strength. We've also got Blind Rage down here for 99% increase. We also got Augur Secrets over here for another 24% increase. Then I put Equilibrium up here so I can get extra energy from health pickups. Then I've got Prime Flow for a bigger energy pool. Then we've got Prime Continuity for extra duration. Then we've got Archon Stretch for some range. I'm using Archon Stretch just because my companion is triggering this effect here, which I can show you here in a second. Then up here for my Arcanes, I'm actually using Arcane Steadfast for that chance to get 3 abilities with no energy cost. And then down here, we've got Volt Augmented for even more ability strength. Now going over the Archon Stretch real quick, I'm using Doriga with the mod Arc Coil right here. So whenever this actually triggers, it's going to start regenerating our energy because it counts as an ability that triggers electricity. And just so we can show that real quick, if you look down here in the bottom right, I've got 165 energy right now, but if I go up here and let the Doriga do its little thing, you can see that I start regenerating energy right off the bat. It's proccing the electricity status. As you're around and near other enemies, it's going to give you even more energy. Now for the Noctua, what we've got on here mod-wise is we've got Galvanized Diffusion for multi-shot. We've got creeping bullseye for that extra crit chance. And then we've got prime target cracker for crit damage. Then we've got anemic agility because it definitely needs fire rate. Otherwise it's slow as hell. Then I've got hornet strike down here for just some extra damage. And then we've got pistol pestilence and frostbite to get us that viral status over there. And then we've got lethal torrent for extra fire rate and more multi-shot. You can see here we're going to be triggering slash and viral, which is a viral slash build, which is used on a lot of weapons in Warframe, period. This build really works out well. And then if you wanted to use a tome mod, which I thought about it, but at the same time, I didn't really want to take anything off. I have it up here. It works just fine as it is, but you can go for something like extra. It's up to you. If you wanted to sub something out for a tome mod, maybe get some extra ability strength. I was also looking at, what is that? This one right here, Jahu Canticle. Killing enemies reduces the armor and shields of other enemies with an affinity range by 5%. I was looking at that one, but I didn't want to sub anything out, so this is what I got. And to top it all off, with my focus school and my operator, I'm actually using the Matter Eye school. So down here, I'm taking advantage of the sling strength ability here. So when switching to Warframe after chain sling, adds 40% ability strength for 20 seconds. So if we do this before we start casting our abilities, we're going to get a nice little boost. And for anybody who doesn't know about it yet, if you go into your operator form and then you go into your void mode, if you look straight at the ground, you can void sling twice to the ground and just melee right back into your Warframe. And that's going to give us our little sling strength boost there, 40% ability strength increase. Like I said, this was to solve my problem with Deep Archimedea. I can trigger literally all the debuffs, equip whatever weapons it throws at me, and just swap out my Warframe for Dante. Now, when I first start out, I usually use the Void Sling to get my boost, and then activate my Overguard. And then from there, I activate my first ability, my Noctua, and I just fire away. We're just in a Steel Pass Survival Murmur mission here in the Sanctum. But your enemies when you do Deep Archimedea are going to be like, what, 400-ish or higher? And this just melts through them anyways. Not only that, you're going to be able to keep yourself alive with the Overguard, which will max out at like 70,000, maybe a little over 70,000 once your Molt Augmented kicks in. Maybe you want to trigger something with your primary weapon to get that extra status effect from growing power. Let's see if we can max out our Overguard real quick to see what the actual top number is. So right there we got 71,678 Overguard. Which if you get enough Eximus units, they'll eat through that pretty quick, but for the most part, you're going to survive pretty easily. Now, I do see a lot of people for Helmeth abilities, they use Roar over his first, which will give you some extra damage, I guess, but I really wanted to use his Noctua, so this is what I ended up with. Now, this is just a build that I've used for the past 3 weeks that's literally carried me and whoever I'm with through Deep Archimedea. Like, it's no problem at all. That's what I was going for, because I'm lazy. I don't want to go forward and build 500 different weapons to be able to not have the opportunity to choose from them. You know what I mean? Anyways, guys, that's all I got for you. And I will see you next time in the next video.